Thanks for, we're all going to be talking, so let's just hold. Thank you guys for joining us today. So we're going to talk about the game, Lego Minifigures Online. It's a massively multiplayer game. It'll be launching in the second half of 2014. We'll have several betas on the run-up to launch. And the game will be launching on PC as a downloadable client, but also in a browser. So you can just go to a website, click play, and off you go. And it will also be launching on Android and iOS tablets. And all of these players will be playing together. So, in the game, as you can see, it's an isometric top-down game. It's click to move. Movement is on the left mouse button. Each minifigure has two abilities, and those are mapped to the left and right mouse buttons. So, we have several themed worlds. You saw in the video there was a pirate world. There's also a space world. Today we're going to focus on the mythology world and go through a portion of that. So we're making our way up the mountain, and our goal here is that we're going to fight our way up to the Forge, which is one of the dungeons in the mythology world. Straight away you see that the DJ is flinging records or bouncing off walls. They'll bounce from between NPCs, and that really adds to the action element of the game, because we have proper projectiles. You saw he just dodged a flying boulder. You also see in the bottom of the screen there's 3 minifigure portraits. There's close to 100 minifigures in the game at launch. You'll be able to pick 3 of them at any given time to have at the ready. And the ones that you have at the ready, you can freely switch between anytime you want. And they all have different abilities. They're good at different things. So situationally, you'll want to think about how you load out your team so that you have a good mix of abilities and capabilities. Some minifigures build very slowly. Some minifigures build very fast. Some are offensive, some are defensive. Some are more balanced. Now, we just switched to the Cyclops, and I have a little story I tell. I really like the Cyclops. He's really fun to play. He's got this I-beam attack, and we were doing reviews, and I was using him. He was the character I played with the most. And then one day that week, I was sitting in the meeting room, and I was really bored, and I was opening minifigure bags, and I opened one, and I got the Cyclops, and I was so excited. It's like, there was my little dude in the bag. We're hoping that our players will get that same experience. So when the game launches, there will be a minifigure series, as you see here, launching at the same time as the game. And all the minifigures in that series, when you open the bag, there will also be a code. And if you enter that code into the game, you will unlock that minifigure and can immediately start playing with it. So this is a massively multiplayer game. The game is up and running on a beta server. We had our first beta, Friends and Family, which kicked off in July. Here we've got a couple other players that are going to join us as we go into this dungeon. So you see here a collection of parts. We'll interact with this and we'll build a gyrocopter. Now he's using the Cyclops. The Cyclops isn't a good builder. He's not very bright, so it's going very slowly. But if he switches to the DJ, you'll see that it goes faster. Some characters are better at building than others. So now we've built our gyrocopter. And we'll run up the ramp, we'll board the gyrocopter and fly away to the dungeon. We will have a cutscene here, but we don't have those yet. So now we've loaded into the Forge, and it is a dungeon, so it's a higher challenge area. So we need to think about the minifigures that we've got in our ready slots. And really make sure we've got a good team to run this dungeon. So first we've got the roller derby girl. She's kind of tough. But the thing is, her special ability is she summons her roller derby team, and they knock back the enemies. That gives her room to maneuver while in the dungeon. Next we have the fairy. The fairy is the most damage-dealing minifigure in the game right now. She is a world beater. She does a ton of damage. And last we're going to go with the Galaxy Patrol. He's a good mix of offense and defense. He's got a laser beam, it bounces off walls, and it does good damage. But he also has a grenade that he can throw, which bounces the NPCs up in the air. So if he gets swarmed or trapped, he can do that to get away. So this level, it's a mountainous region, and right now we're kind of in the lowlands at the base of the mountain. We're actually going to go inside the mountain, spiral up, we'll be inside, outside, going up, and really showing off height and elevation changes and perspective changes. I think the art department's done a really good job with this level.
Well, it was kind of a case we had so much variety and so much color and so much vibrancy with the characters. we had to kind of match that. So you've seen in the video some tiny glimpses of some of the worlds we already have in existence. We have worlds that are based upon existing Lego playsets, like the castle theme or the pirate theme, or my personal favorite, space. But the mythology theme is something that we've worked on our own. It's our own little creation. Of course, we've had guidance and help along the way from Lego, and they've been very, very helpful. But this is our own little baby. This is our own creation. It's the sort of world that we always wanted to build, but never quite had enough Lego bricks to do. But I feel we're getting close to getting something that's really pretty, really awesome here.
And it has lava.
I love lava.
And Gavin really, really likes lava.
There's no location that can't be improved with lava, or a lava waterfall. But yeah, I mean, you know, we do have areas where we have the man-made is going to be Lego. The natural materials are going to be sort of something that we sculpt ourselves. But we're still trying to keep it within that Lego theme, that Lego look. And it's some of these looks are quite well established with the medieval or the castle range. So yeah, it looks quite nice.
You see that there's things exploding on the screen. The weapon racks and the chests and the boxes and the crates. And because as much as Lego is about building, it's also about smashing things apart as well. And so we have loads of smashes all over the place that you can interact with. And sometimes they drop treasure, but sometimes smashing things will be part of core gameplay, like defeating bosses and having to smash walls to defeat the boss. Or also smashing walls to unlock hidden and secret areas.
Here in this location, we are getting into what we call an area quest. Area quests are bubbles of activity that we place not only in dungeons but also in the outside worlds, where it's more like a more structured piece of gameplay. There might be events where you get monsters coming at you in waves like this one. There might be a mini boss encounters of other sorts. You might have to solve a mini puzzle of building and destroying some things. But the key feature of area quests, though, is that we give you credit for pretty much everything you do in these areas. It's not just you need to build this specific thing or this specific thing. We also get credit for just killing monsters in this location, or just walking by, or exploring things, or discovering hidden treasures and things like that. We don't want to give them precise instructions on what to do. We'd rather reward them for just playing the game and staying a little bit in this area. That's the concept behind area quests. As you complete area quests, you get rewards, you get loot, you get stars, you get bricks, you get hearts, which are health power-ups. The stars are a currency that you can accumulate that is basically equivalent to minifigure XP. You can spend stars on any of the minifigures that you have to make them better. And there is no restriction on which minifigure you spend the stars on. That's completely up to you. So you can either save them for later, for when you get the minifigure that you really want, or you can improve the ones that you already have that you like, or you can just boost a single minifigure and play with that one most of the time, and then explore your minifigures as you get them. We don't want to restrict them into a single path of progression. Minifigures are the different paths of progression. You choose which ones you spend your XP on.
And as you level up your minifigures using the stars, their abilities will unlock new properties and become more powerful. So where right now the roller derby girl, she summons her teammates and it knocks back the enemies. But the stage 2 of that might knock them back and snare them, so that when they've been knocked back, they're kind of wobbly on their feet. And the third stage might knock them down and cause them to take more damage on the next hit that they receive.
It's also worth mentioning that every single minifigure in the game has their own unique ability. Every single one of these minifigures is designed around the personality that a minifigure has. They have their bios, they have their little stories going on. Their abilities try to reflect that, or try to enhance that, or build on top of that. And they are all completely different.
The minifigure toy line has been going for a couple years now, and you've seen the bags and the little charts. The minifigure line themselves, I mean, it runs the full spectrum from a cheerleader to a space robot. And they all have very strong personalities. So when we sat down to make this game, really job one was, how do we bring these personalities to life? Because Lego has done half the job in creating the minifigure, and then the kids' imagination sort of take it to the next level. So we've got to make sure we mesh with that. So to do that, of course, we have the unique abilities that they all have, but then it's also the animations, the way they move, the sound effects, and the idols and the taunts that they have. Here you see the roller derby girl, and she's quite strong. in the way that she skates. We also have an ice skater, and she's much more graceful. They both skate, but in entirely different ways. So as we're progressing up this mountain, you see now we're in the snow. We're in the snow-capped peak of it. We're getting closer to the top. So the environment has changed. So now we've entered another one of these mission areas. We had it for a previous presentation, but to destroy these harpy nests. And we use smashing as a quest mechanic quite often. So as we're climbing, we're going around the peak of the mountain, and these platforms, if you pay attention, as we get higher, you'll actually see the previous platforms below you. So you actually are climbing in 3D space.
In this area, you will also see how the packs of monsters are becoming larger. They're not there waiting for you anymore. They're ambushing you, they're spawning behind you to cut your retreat. And in general, we try to build a slightly more challenging monster encounters.
The farther you go in the dungeon, the more challenging it becomes.
I think visually as well, it becomes more challenging. It gets more intense. You're higher up the mountain. There's a lot more going on in the background.
And as we progress, you see kind of in the background, we have Lego clouds. And I'm not saying that there's going to be a cloud level, but maybe there might be a cloud level. In terms of the visual style, we've really taken our cue from Lego Universe in that in Lego Universe, if it was made of Lego, or if it was man-made, it was made of Lego. If it was natural, then it wasn't. So here you see tons and tons of Lego stuff. We try to make sure that there's always half the scene being stuff made of Lego. It doesn't always work out that way, but that's our goal.
Something important also is anything you see that is made out of Lego here, you could actually make yourself at home if you have the pieces. There's no cheats, there's no trickery. They're actually built with the Lego Digital Designer, which is a tool that uses real Lego pieces with real constraints that the Lego pieces have.
Yeah, so it follows all the Lego building systems. So yeah, as Oscar said, if you had the bricks, if you see it in our game, you could build it at home. Unless it's a minifigure, and then you just got to collect it. So we're approaching the boss of this dungeon, and one of the visual cues that we put into the game is that anytime you're about to enter a boss encounter, the camera perspective changes to be behind you, and then you'll have these barriers, and these green barriers signify a commitment point. Once you cross it, you can't come back. You're going to trigger an encounter, and you've got to defeat it. So here we're fighting this giant ogre, and you see there's a couple buildables in the room. So building and buildables will be a central strategy for all of our boss fights. In this case, we're building lightning rods. Throughout the fight, the ogre will spawn these lightning balls that follow you around. They chase you and they do a lot of damage. So when this happens, what you want to do is run to the lightning rod. Then the lightning ball gets trapped and eventually destroyed. And it stops doing damage to you, which is the most important thing.
Every single boss encounter in the game has these kind of buildable elements, and they're all designed to directly counter one of the things the boss does.
Lightning balls, run.
The abilities of the bosses also scale. Yeah, they also scale with the number of players, so that's what you're going to look at.
When you're fighting Medusa, who's also a boss in the mythology world, you would build mirrors to reflect her gaze attack. So we've defeated the boss. Defeating the boss, it's the best way in the game to collect minifigures. But it's not the only way. You can also earn achievements will grant you minifigures, completing quests. You can just find them. If you're very, very lucky, find them in chests or as drops. And there's also a lot of sub-bosses which have a chance of dropping. So anytime you beat a boss, you get to go to a treasure room where you get to smash lots of stuff and collect lots of loot. And at this point, we would normally take our gyrocopter out of the forge, but for this presentation, we're actually going to teleport into one of the other dungeons, which is the Underworld and the River Styx. And that's where we're going to fight Hades. It's a bag like this that you open. You don't know what you're going to get there. also drop bricks and stars. And the bricks are a system that replaces the traditional paper doll and equipment because the identity of these minifigures is so important. We're not going to change the look of them. You collect the roller derby girl, and that's what she looks like. But instead of the normal paper doll, you have a Lego base plate, and that base plate is specific for that minifigure. And then there's bricks that work like items. They give stats, damage and defense and creativity, critical chance, and they're in different shapes. So the color, which indicates the statistic, and the shape indicate how big the bonus is, and then you fit them to your Lego base plate.
So here we are in the Underworld. This is where Hades lives. Hades is the main antagonist for the mythology set. The game is divided in multiple sets. This is one of them. In here, Hades normally is against Zeus. They're kind of like kicking each other all day long. And something has happened that has made Hades a lot more powerful than he normally is. So Zeus is asking you for help to try to stop him. So the thing you have to do to defeat Hades is go into his realm. He lives in the Underworld. He lives past the river Styx, which is Shadow Rebellion that will ask you for a coin. And then this is the river Styx. We are going to traverse down the river to get to the top. That is a jump pad. We have loads of jump pads in the game. You can build jump pads. There's jump pads that are shaped like these ones that you see. There's jump pads that are pirate cannons that shoot you into a pirate galleon. There's many other things.
And if we had a cloud level, we could have jump pads in the cloud level. You could be jumping among the clouds.
They're like springs. These are skeletons. Skeletons is one of the most one of the advanced kind of monsters in the game. There is 4 different types of skeletons. Individually, they're not really much of a challenge. Like, no monster in the game is really going to be a big challenge in the game. So we need to keep the game easy to handle and easy to play for the kids as well, right? But we try to create diversity of the monster encounters by throwing together monsters that have synergetic abilities. So a very easy example here is the warrior skeletons and the archer skeletons. Not only the archers stay and where they are and shoot at you, they also will try to move behind the warriors. So you have to maneuver around them, you have to defeat them before you can do the archers. But you can block grenades above them, or you can teleport behind, or you can pull them in. That's many different ways you can use, right? Later on, you will find sorcerers, which are a more advanced version of the archer, which also summon warriors in the middle of combat. So you have to deal with the sorcerers and with the warriors. By then, you should know that you should be focusing the guys that are in the black guys. And then also you start fighting shield bearers, which are guys that are skeletons that have to carry a shield and they can create a protective bubble that absorbs pretty much all the damage they take. But there is also ways to deal with the shield. It's not just waiting for it to wear off. You can either stop them from using it by stunning them, or you can just break it with power attacks or with other different abilities. And then we just throw them all together and we put you in, and well, you know which one you should focus on. There's all the guys that are trying to stop you from focusing on them.
Our way to the final boss of this Hades. And when we get in front of his room, we actually trigger a dynamic encounter and we get ambushed. And this is where you use all the things we've just taught you on the way here in terms of how the different skeletons work. So you've got your warriors and the archers behind them, and that's fairly easy to deal with. But then come the shield guys, and if you don't stun them very quickly, they become invulnerable for a period of seconds. And the mages, which summon more skeletons, hide behind them. So it can become a tricky situation to deal with. Not for our expert players, though, because these guys know what they're doing.
There is mostly two-player collision also, so you cannot just go through them. You need to maneuver around them.
So now the evil skeletons have been dispatched. It's time for us to go and fight Hades. So once again, the camera perspective shifts to the boss perspective. We see our barrier, so we know we've got a boss fight coming. So Hades is riding on the back of a Cerberus, a giant 3-headed dog. And you'll see that in this room there are 2 buildables. The one on the left is a damage shield. When you build it, it gives you a shield that pulses damage. Hades will summon minions, and that damage shield helps you kill those without taking your focus off of Hades. On the right side is another buildable that gives you a shield that absorbs damage, so a defensive shield. As the fight goes on, Hades becomes more powerful, and that shield becomes very, very helpful for you. Now, Hades is a big, bad boss, so this fight takes a bit of time. But one thing I wanted to say about Hades, the way Lego builds things, it's either made of brick or it is what they call a sculpted creature. So the Cerberus that Hades is riding is a good example of a sculpted creature. And they have one lady who makes these. She's been working at Lego for like 20 years. She makes the sculpted creatures. She has an apprentice. He's been doing it for like 4 or 5 years, and he's still not good enough to do it on his own. So I think it really speaks to the talents of Gavin and his art department that they've been able to make several of these adhering to the Lego system and gotten them approved and will have them in the game. They've really nailed that system, and I think Lego is so much more than just a bunch of blocks that you put together. It is a highly precise engineering system. And so we've been working very closely with them, learning the ins and outs of how to build things in the Lego way. Because the very important thing when making a Lego game that has Lego things in it is that, just like with the bricks, anything made of Lego bricks, you could build at home. If in the future Lego wanted to produce that Cerberus, they would need to be able to actually produce it. So it has to follow all the rules. Oh, poor Hades, he's crying.
We introduce these little touches of comedy whenever we can as well. Especially you just fought a giant, you burned on top of 3 heads. So we try to tone it down a little. There's touches of comedy like this all over the game.
So we've reached the end of the dungeon and also the end of the presentation. So today we've looked at the Mythology World, the Forge dungeon, the Underworld dungeon. We've looked at a couple of the boss fights and the minifigures, the way they move and the way they fight, and how you collect them. The game will launch in the second half of 2014. It's free to play, downloadable client, in the browser, Android and iOS tablets. And that's it. Thanks, guys. Now we can do questions. Thank you. Thank you.
So, the thing that's going to surprise everyone is the minifigure bag business, as in you get the minifigures. So, is that a series that you've worked with Lego to make yourselves?
Yes. So it's a series that we're launching in the second half of 2014. And actually these two guys have been working very closely with Lego to concept the minifigures that will be in that series. And so our game has several themed worlds. And each of those themed worlds will have a specific minifigure that is the hero of that world that will be in that series. And there's also several other minifigures that work very well.
So like the minifigure series, there's like 13?
16.
16, so that is a full set?
Yes.
Okay. And is that something that will continue as Lego do more series? Like, is the goal that this is...
That's the plan.
So this is essentially like Lego doing Skylanders a bit.
I didn't say that. I'm not touching that one, but
essentially the same principle is that the toys will always have an unlock.
Yeah, I mean, we're making a game for our game is based on the minifigures license, so it's based on this toy theme. So yes, codes and bags, as we say, is something that will happen.
But you can't say that, like, you know, after the series that you've done to promote this, like the ones cracking on after that.
Well,
because it seems so silly that like that doesn't have.
No, I mean, I can't say that because I don't know there's going, I don't know Lego's plans, but yes, I mean, in general that is the idea that when there's a new minifigure series released, we release it in the game and it's the same setup.
Where's the money being made?
Okay, so the game's free to play, but and we're not going to go into details on the business model, but I will say at a high level, the series that has the codes, so the series that launches our game, there's more than 160 minifigures that exist before that series comes out. So there will be ways to monetize. Yeah, we have a huge backlog, and we develop fairly quickly. So, and it's an online game, so we'll always be putting in new content.
An MMO as opposed to a kind of a smaller instance thing. Why is it an MMO? Like, are there hub locations? Are there guilds? Are there kind of ways for players to form big groups? You know.
Okay, so we're not going to talk much about the social features, but it's an MMO in that in all the outdoor areas you can encounter dozens and dozens of players in the same space. And also we will have PvP, which we'll reveal more on later this year. But also, so PvP is going to be a big thing and involve a lot of players as well.
This is quite a hard question for you to answer. So, okay, I'll just flag that. There's quite a lot of debate in the UK, certainly, I don't know if it's like the same in the rest of the world, about free-to-play games and app transfer, app fees, store fees and things aimed at kids specifically. And I know, like at some point, Apple are going to clamp down on it fairly hard and go, stop being dicks about it. This is a kid's game, right? Like very clearly, but so that comes with certain responsibilities. And Lego are taking a risk, like I said, by making a game where a kid could easily spend £200 in there. So I'm just wondering how much thought have you put into this situation?
Not much at all. No, just kidding. Okay, no, but I think that's a very good question. And let's just look at child safety as a whole. And I think certainly the financial aspect is a core part of that. Child safety is the first thing you think about, and also the last thing you think about, right? It's like we start talking about a feature or how we want to approach something. How does the child safety play in? And then when we're done talking about it, but wait, did we hit all the child safety things? And we're actually working very closely with Lego's child safety department to dial all this in. So specifically to the business model. Anything that, all the minifigures, you could earn them all for free by playing the game straight away. Now, it might take a while, but it could be done. Also, there will be safeguards in place such that a kid doesn't spend $200 in one go. Additionally, and this has kind of always been Funcom's policy for all of our games, the minute there's a dispute on a transaction, it's an instant refund. No questions asked. No, thank you. Thank you. But definitely, and Lego is aware of this, we're aware of this, and we will be taking steps to implement safeguards and all of that stuff. Yeah, thank you. Any more questions? All right. Well, thanks, guys. Hope you liked what you saw. We started in September last year. Yeah, so the thing about no, this is our own proprietary technology. So if you're familiar with Funcom, we've made Anarchy Online, Age of Conan, Secret World. This is built on that technology, which we've been developing for more than 10 years. So it's kind of a perfect storm of our technology being very mature, having just come out of Secret World, which is a AAA full-scale MMO, and having a team of developers. The art department, the average experience in years is more than 17. So we have very experienced developers using a very mature tech that they are also very experienced with. And we're able to just blaze through and build things very quickly.
That way we can also focus on building things like where you can bounce off the walls,
right?
Or the chain between
Exactly, and our technology already supports all of that. Full scripting support, all the client server stuff. We get that out of the box the day we start the project. It's just a matter of, yes, enable that feature. In terms of producing the world, the art team in a 6-week milestone can produce 6 playfields like the Forge. Yeah, it helps quite a bit. Also, because anything made of Lego has been built in the Lego Digital Designer, right? So once you get a knack for building in that thing, you can just buzz through and whip things out. So we build it in the Digital Designer, then export it, and we optimize it because Lego bricks have tubes in them and stuff. You got to remove those. We optimize it, and then it's in the game. Yeah. Thank you. We hope so. We think so. Thanks, guys.